Okay, we can start now. Okay, so good day, everyone, and welcome to this webinar on education for sustainable and green societies. I am Rene Raya, the Regional Advocacy Coordinator and Lead Policy Analyst of ASBE, and I will be moderating this session. This is a side event to the 2023 High-Level Political Forum, or HLPF, that's still ongoing at the UN headquarters in New York, and now on its second week, actually. And the theme of this year's HLPF is accelerating the recovery from the coronavirus disease, COVID-19, and the full implementation of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development at all levels. We are coming to you virtually from different parts of Asia and the Pacific and from around the world. We are actually expecting more to come as we, move on into our session with nearly 200 registered participants. The co-organizers for this side event are ASBE and Assad, and my colleagues, the speakers, will be, telling more about the organizations which we belong to, which is actually co-organizing this event. And now I can walk you through the objectives of this side event. And if you can flash this on screen. Yeah, so we are responding to a very urgent issue, and we think that transformative education can really have an important role to play in, mainstreaming awareness on the environment and also on climate change mitigation. So the objectives of this side event are: one, to explore the transformative power of education, SDG 4, in relation to the SDGs as a whole that are up for review and in contributing to the transformation towards a more sustainable, gender-fair, inclusive, and green societies. Second is to present experiences, good practices, and initiatives that promote clean energy, that's SDG 7, sustainable communities, that's SDG 11, and green jobs, that's SDG 7 and 11, and women's empowerment, SDG number 5. And the third is to encourage the replication of good practices and mainstream the teaching of sustainable communities in the education system. That's why we invited a panel that can share to you, to all of us, good practices in climate change mitigation and environment protection. Moving on now to the session flow. Yeah, we have these objectives and agenda, and we'll have official welcome remarks from ASBE, and we have move on, and then we'll have 4 panelists for this main session that will present experiences, projects, and initiatives related to environment protection and climate change mitigation initiatives. And these are on capacity development towards achieving more sustainable cities, SDG 11, empowering women in India through green transport and non-traditional skills education, promoting community-based and sustainable tourism in Mongolia, and in the Philippines, community initiatives on addressing plastic pollution and achieving zero waste in the country, in the Philippines. And I will be introducing our speakers as we move along into the session. Okay. Okay, so I think we now have our official welcome from the Secretary General of ASBE, Ms. Helen Dabu. She is the Secretary General of the Asia South Pacific Association for Basic and Adult Education. Helen is a lawyer and a registered social worker in the Philippines who has been actively involved in education and development work for the past 20 years. She's concurrently holding positions in various global platforms, including the Sherpa Group of the Global SDG4 High-Level Steering Committee and the Interagency Network for Education in Emergencies, among others. So, Helen, over to you.
Well, thank you so much, Rene, for that introduction. Greetings of peace and solidarity to all our participants to this ASBE and Azad Foundation side event for the 2023 High-Level Political Forum, or HLPF. I thank you all for taking the time to join us in this important discussion. And as well, I sincerely thank our distinguished panel of speakers who will surely enrich our discussions in this side event for the HLPF. Colleagues, in ASBE's long history, we are now approaching 60 years next year since we were established in 1964. We have been active in advocacy and capacity building efforts around environmental education and education for sustainable development, or ESD. In particular, ASBE has articulated ESD, SDG 4.7, and Global Citizenship Education, or GCED, in transnational policy platforms by highlighting education's contribution in the fulfillment of human rights, peace, responsible citizenship, gender equality, sustainable development and health, and advancing the integration of transformative approaches to the whole education system. ASBE's work in this area emphasized that ESD, SDG 4.7, and GCED are not just subjects in curricula, nor should they just be pursued only in the mainstream of the formal education systems, but also they can also be pursued through non-formal and informal education systems. And at the same time, ASBE has asserted that non-formal youth and adult education are critical in equipping communities with the necessary tools, knowledge, skills, attitudes to cope with the impacts of climate change and the more vicious natural disasters brought on by global warming. The world is already witnessing the impacts of climate change. Climate change is here and it will continue to worsen if we as a society do not immediately take impactful and meaningful climate actions. The climate crisis cuts across all sectors and societal spheres. Climate crisis aggravates existing socioeconomic, political, and humanitarian crises. The climate crisis is also a human rights issue for all of us, and it unravels the stark inequalities in our society. It disproportionately affects the most vulnerable groups, and these include women and girls, people with disabilities, the poor, those in rural and remote areas, the ethnic minorities, amongst others. And at the same time, our region, the Asia Pacific, continues to be exposed to the multiple impacts of climate change. ASBE believes that education is a human right and a powerful means to achieve other rights. And at the same time, we believe that education plays a key role in transitioning
Helen, wait for a while. Helen, wait.
She's on mute. On mute.
You are on mute, Helen. Can you?
Yeah. All right. Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay. Colleagues, ASBE believes that education is a human right and a powerful means to achieve other rights. And at the same time, education plays a key role in transitioning into a climate-saving, gender just, and sustainable society. While we have often discussed, witnessed, and experienced the harrowing impacts of climate change and environmental degradation in various contexts in our region, we in ASBE, together with our member Azad Foundation, also want to offer a space for dialogue and showcase transformative initiatives and efforts on the ground at the country level. Our collective hope is that these solutions will contribute in addressing the impacts of climate change and highlight how education can play a significant role in these transformative solutions. This side event, therefore, puts a spotlight on these inspiring and grounded initiatives to tackle climate change-related impacts while we continue within the network of ASBE, while we continue to advance this issue within a rights-based and climate justice framework. I will end by highlighting that we in ASBE, together with our members in the region, will continue to champion the transformative character of education and assert that education systems must recognize the urgency of addressing climate change and work towards sustainable solutions to protect the planet. We believe that education should work towards advancing social and ecological justice, where those least responsible for causing the strains on the planet do not continue to disproportionately pay the price for them. We in ASBE are committed to jointly strategize with our members on possible advocacy efforts on climate change education, which draws on the very rich experience of CSOs in the Asia-Pacific region, supporting efforts to mainstream ESD, SDG 4.7, GSED, and climate change education in curricula, in teachers' trainings, in community learning centers, and in the overall education and lifelong learning systems. ASBE also aims to expand its linkages with the strong climate justice movements in the region and globally. We will aim to contribute to the wider CSO efforts advancing climate justice and to draw wider attention as well to the critical role education plays in advancing climate justice. So this forms a strong part of CSO advocacies. We are cognizant as well that there are strong youth and student movements advancing climate-related issues, and ASBE will explore linkages with them on climate justice advocacy and campaigning. With this, thank you, and on behalf of ASBE staff and Executive Council, I'm extending a warm welcome to everyone. It's been a real pleasure sharing this space with all of you, and I look forward to learning more from our distinguished panel of speakers. Thank you, and over to you, Rene.
Yeah, thank you, Helen, for that inspirational talk. I really like to highlight the point that this webinar is not just a one-off talk show for us, but this is really a momentum to increase the momentum towards addressing this urgent issue of climate change and environmental degradation through education. And as you noted, Helen, education has a very important role in really mainstreaming this issue in order to, find solutions, scale up solutions, and build awareness among all stakeholders, among learners and teachers and education officials. And of course, we have to prompt our governments that they should be, walking the talk, that they should really adhere to the commitments that have been made in several conferences that have been, conducted over the past decade, several decades actually. Okay, and we take note that there was this Transforming Education Summit that happened last year in September 2022, and there over half of the governments, made that commitment of the need to integrate climate change education into the curricula and ensuring that school infrastructure exemplify carbon neutrality. So we will continue to pursue and challenge and hold our governments to account for these commitments. Okay, so moving on now for this side event. Now we have invited a panel of advocates and practitioners in the field of environment protection and climate change mitigation. They will be presenting their respective initiatives and projects in India, Mongolia, and the Philippines. And we will be having 2 rounds where they will present and then respond to questions on what can be done in order to mainstream this initiative. After that presentation, we will have an open forum, but before that, we'll have probably a break. And an open forum is not really just a question and answer session, but more for everyone to share their ideas, their feedback on what can be done in order to, address these challenging issues. And then we hope that we will be able to compile this feedback and recommendations coming from all of us and present this to the proper forum, to our governments, to the UN, in order to really scale up and find solutions to these urgent concerns. Okay, now I will introduce our panelists and then they can start their presentation after. So our first speaker is Ms. Dolon Ganguly. She is the chief functionary at the SAD Foundation, India. Dolon is a staunch intersectional feminist with 20 years experience of working in the development sector in India, primarily in the field of promoting women's economic and social rights. She has been part of various advocacy processes locally and globally to further women equal opportunity and rights. Okay, the second speaker from Mongolia is Dr. Amartudsin Dorsurin. We call him Amara, and he is an associate professor at the Department of Geography, the National University of Mongolia. He was a former national consultant on ecotourism for the International Labour Organization, ILO, and the United Nations, UN. Okay. Our third speaker is from the Philippines, Miss Maria Mercedes Mercy Ferrer. Call her Mercy. Mercy is a long-time zero waste advocate and practitioner. She's a member of the Regional Advisory Council of the Global Alliance for Incinerator Alternatives in Asia Pacific and the co-convener of the War on Waste, Break Free from Plastic in Negros Oriental. She is also one of the founders of the Global Break Free from Plastic movement. Okay, and our fourth speaker, Ms. Sonal Shah, is the founder of the Urban Catalyst in India and the current executive director of the Center for Sustainable and Equitable Cities, CSEC. These organizations are committed to catalyzing sustainable and gender equitable cities and transport. She is a multi-sectoral professional driven by the goal of catalyzing sustainable, gender equitable transportation and cities. She has over 18 years of experience in development work. Okay, so these are our four panelists, and may I now call on Dolon to share the experience that they have in India. Over to you, Dolon.
Thank you, Rene. I would like to request Bats to run the video first, and then I'll go by my presentation. So just before you start, there is a video. It contains the experiences of women drivers and car drivers and scooter drivers who use the e-vehicles. So please start.
हमारे घर में हम 8 सदस्य हैं। पापा मेरे हलवाई का काम करते हैं। मैंने आदत में की ड्राइविंग सीखी। मुझे यहाँ बहुत कुछ नया सीखने को मिला।
स्कूटी जब मैंने चलाना सीखी थी तो मेरे को ऐसा लगा कभी मेरे को आएगी ही नहीं। फिर मैंने धीरे धीरे करके रोड में जाके साइड से मैंने गाड़ी चलाना सीखा, अपना डर निकाला।
कोविड शुरू हुआ, उसके बाद हम लोगों ने 2 व्हीलर की ट्रेनिंग भी देना शुरू किया। डिलीवरी का काम ज़्यादा बढ़ गया था मार्केट में, और इलेक्ट्रिक व्हीकल पे भी शुरू किया। चार्ज कैसे करना, उसको मेंटेन रखना, ये सब हमने लड़कियों को सिखाया है ताकि वो इसमें भी ट्रेनिंग करके आगे अपना रोजगार कर सके।
সেখান থেকে বেরিয়ে আমাকে চাকরি দেওয়ার জন্য আমি তারপর এখন হ্যান্ডিক্যাপে যে চাকরি হচ্ছে সেখানে আমি 1 মাস হয়ে গেল।
मैं अभी महेशनगर बीबीनाव में जॉब कर रही हूँ। मुझे उसको चला के बहुत अच्छा महसूस होता है कि ना ही इससे पॉल्यूशन होता है और ना ही अलग अलग नई सी बीमारियाँ फैली। उससे हमें फ्यूल वगैरह का थोड़ी बचत हो रही है।
जो ट्रेनीज हैं जब इलेक्ट्रिक व्हीकल चला रही हैं तो इसमें डिफरेंस है। एक तो हमारा पॉल्यूशन नॉन पॉल्यूशन हो जाता है, और जो कि मार्केट में पेट्रोल का रेट इतना हाई है तो वो पेट्रोल की सेविंग उनकी हो पा रही है। बहुत सारी जो ट्रेनीज हमारे साथ सीख रही थी उन्होंने EMI पे हमारे साथ स्कूटी ली है, जो कि वो रेंट करके अपने नाम पर स्कूटी ले सकते हैं।
बिग बास्केट में काम करने के बाद मैं अपनी ट्यूशन फीस भी भरती हूँ, स्कूटी की किस्त भी भरती हूँ और अपनी जेब से भरती हूँ, मुझे मांगने की जरूरत नहीं पड़ती।
প্রথমত তো এটা পলিউশন মুক্ত, আর দ্বিতীয়ত 1 ঘন্টায় চার্জ দিলে 240 কিলোমিটার মানে চলে গাড়িটা। আর তারপরে আছে যে পেট্রোল ভরার সেটার কোনো থাকে না যে দাঁড়ানো কিংবা করা। তো কাজ করতে চাইছি, মেয়েকে মানুষ করার ইচ্ছা আছে, তো ভবিষ্যতে যদি কিছু করতে পারি।
अभी देखने को मिल रहा है कि काफ़ी चार्जिंग पॉइंट्स यहाँ पे बनाए जा रहे हैं, लेकिन उनसे भी काम नहीं चलेगा, उनके अलावा भी और चार्जिंग पॉइंट्स होने चाहिए, क्योंकि अलग अलग जगह पे पॉसिबिलिटी होनी चाहिए कि वहाँ पे चार्जिंग पॉइंट्स रहें।
Thank you, Bets. Yes, we know it's difficult to hear, so there has been an issue in the sound, and I mean, it has been done by our team only, so please bear with us. We haven't hired any professional for that, so please bear with that. But there was always subtitles for you. Can you please start the slides, Bets? So good evening from India. Of course, it's good morning in New York and different time in different time zone. So Azad is a professional feminist organization, and we mobilize and train and enable resource for women to become professional drivers. Azad also works with young women and men and provide leadership training so that they can create gender just ecosystem in their respective communities. Please, Bats, go on. Hi, Bats, I can't see. So we dream for a world where all women, in particular women from underprivileged contexts, enjoy full citizenship, exercise control over their lives and bodies, earn a livelihood with dignity, and generate wealth and value for all. And to reach this vision, our mission is to enable women disadvantaged by gender, caste, class, ethnicity, religion, race, color, sexuality, so that they are able to empower themselves with knowledge and skills to build gender-just society and earn a livelihood with dignity in jobs and markets that has been traditionally close to them. So here I would like to add, in India that women are not in driving because it is thought or it is perceived that it is a quote unquote men's job. So we want to break that gender division of labor in the work area, and that's why we provide them this training, and this we call the non-traditional training, because traditionally this total area of driving as a skill and profession has been close to women due to these patriarchal notions. Please, next slide. Next slide, please. We are present in 8 cities in India. In 4 cities, we work with our partners, and in 4 cities, we work directly. There has been some more data in this slide, Bats. Yeah. So I'm not just repeating that because it has been shown in the video. Sorry, Bats. I was in the previous slide. Yeah, thank you. So it has been repeated in the video, so I'm not going. Yeah, so let us see the context. So context of our work is in India, the employability gender gap the gender gap in employability is 50.9%, and only 19.2% women are in labor force compared to 70.1% men. And within this 19.2%, actually more than 90% women are in unorganized sector, which means they are not getting any social security what a worker should get. In 2021, only we see that within the 12 to 59 age group, only 84.4% people didn't receive any, not only, in 2021, within the age group of 12 to 59, the people, of them, 84.4% didn't receive any vocational training, and 90% women didn't receive any vocational training compared to 79% men. And women's mobilities are controlled, they face gender-based violence, and their life choices are restricted. In terms of the environment sustainability, we see in India, the carbon emission is in 2021 is 7.5%, and in 2022, it has increased by 6%, which is the highest. When we see the total global scenario, we see that this responsibility lies more on the billionaire in our world, because due to their unthoughtful, unsustainable type of investment, total 50 to 70% carbon emissions are done by their all those efforts of this unsustainable investments or industries. Next, please. So we work on SDG 4, 5, 7, 8, 11, and a couple of more, but here we have mentioned this for this panel. And what we do exactly, what are our strategies to deal with this situation? So we go to communities, urban poor communities, and particularly with the marginalized communities, and we engage with them. We encourage the women of those communities to join non-traditional skill building program, which we call Women with Wills, in short WWW. Then when they join the training program, the skill education program, we provide them technical training of driving or bike riding. Along with that, we provide them the professional skills and the self-empowerment skills. And we call it the Skill Plus Plus module, because we have experienced that if we provide that women only technical skill in this, traditionally when they were told that this is not a women's job, it's not easy for them to join this market. So therefore, we need to build their confidence to imbibe the professional qualities in them. Therefore, along with the technical training, we provide all other trainings. We have introduced e-vehicle in our training program, and now women are equipped to drive e-cabs and e-scooters. Our strategic partner, Sakha, place them in green transport as drivers or delivery executive in e-commerce industries. And this is the two-wheeler we have started, as you have seen in the video. My colleague Khushi was saying that we have started during COVID-19, because then the e-commerce industry was opening for women. And finally, these women gain access and control over financial resources, exercise their choices, and lead violence-free lives. Simultaneously, parallelly, we always engage with government, industries, and other stakeholders to recruit women in e-transportation. Next slide, please. Next slide. So the challenges we are faced by this underprivileged, the previous one, yeah. Challenges faced by women is there is less opportunity to build non-traditional skills and engage them in green jobs for women. As you know, these green jobs are green transport is a very new concept in India. And in any new concept, women get excluded, unfortunately. So this challenge is still here. So they are not having the skills and not getting engaged in the green transportation. The lack of gender inclusive infrastructure like clean and hygienic washroom or safe roads for women when they're out for job. Charging station, that has been also told by my colleague in the video. So in many cities, we don't have as much as possible, the number of charging stations are not there. That needs to be increased. High maintenance cost of e-vehicles, which is sometimes became constraint for the women from marginalized communities, poor women to access this e-vehicle. And there is no loan facilities for poor women or resource poor women to buy e-vehicles. So the government needs to have an integrated approach so that women can get this non-traditional skill education, they can be recruited in the green jobs, and they have the infrastructure and the financial subsidy to access these e-vehicles. Next slide, please. I have already spoken of the what we did. So the mass awareness is required. Inclusion of women in green transportation through skilling and recruitment, affordable infrastructure so that the charging stations, the maintenance cost, and sorry, please. No. Go the previous slide, please. Batch. Yeah, thanks. So building affordable infrastructure is required. Industries, governments, and financial institution needs to work hand in hand. They need a real good collaboration to promote e-transport and recruit women there, and implementation of policies to promote e-vehicles. Because now in India, we see in many states, they have the policies, but in an implementation level, there is still gap that needs to be taken care of. Next slide. Here is Madhumita. I'm not repeating because she has already spoken in the video, but you can see what she has said. And thank you.
Thank you very much, Dolon. And that is definitely a very inspiring initiative that your organization have actually initiated. And we can all learn from that. Actually, the challenge is, how can government respond to that initiative? Will government be supporting, scaling up? Because these are really multiple objectives. There is that perspective and angle of women's empowerment, safety for commuters, and also addressing climate change by way of e-transportation. If we are able to promote and really mainstream this, then it can contribute much. And we have that problem that still there is continuing increase of extraction of fossil fuel even now, even notwithstanding the commitments made by governments in several conferences. I think billions of barrels of oil continues to be extracted and destroying our environment, increasing CO2 emission. And so, we'll get back to you later on. And for now, may I call on Amara to share the experience of e-tourism in Mongolia. Over to you, Amara.
Hello, everyone. Can you all hear me?
Louder.
Okay.
Amara, go.
Can I have my presentation, please?
Green jobs and decent work in Gera nature tourism in Mongolia. The Partnership for Action on Green Economy, PAGE, provides integrated and holistic support to countries in transforming economies to advance the 2030 Agenda and Paris Agreement on climate change. The program, a joint collaboration of 5 UN agencies, is adaptive and aligns with national priorities to offer tailored and effective support.
Монгол Улсын хэмжээнд хөтөлбөрийн харьцаанд оролцож байгаа сая 200 орчим мянган хүн. Тэн дээрээс ч одоо яг нэг хөдөө аж ахуй, мал аж ахуйтай холбоотой ч миний ойлгож байгаа 200 орчим мянган хүн байгаа болов. Энэ ус судлалаар тодорхой одоо хөдөлмөрийг эрхлээд тодорхой хэмжээний орлого олж байгаа гэдэг үднээс энэ бол одоо хөдөлмөр эрхлэгч нар мөн. Тэгээ энэ чиглэлээр бол одоо орон нутгийн үйлдвэрчний хэвлэлийн холбоодууд, за тэгээд одоо манай үйлдвэрчний хэвлэлийн холбоотой салбарын зарим одоо холбоодууд бол бас идэвхтэй оролцож, за тэгээд олон улсын хөтөлбөрийн байгууллага, за тэгээд нийгмийн түншлэгч бус талуудтай бол одоо хамтарч одоо төсөл төлбөрүүд үйлчилгээг явуулж байгаа.
Page has worked in Mongolia since 2013 in response to challenges that urgently call for a just transition to an environmentally sustainable society. The importance of tourism in Mongolia. The COVID-19 pandemic resulted in significant economic and social impacts for Mongolia, including a 9.7% contraction in the economy within the first half of 2020. The tourism sector, the third largest contributor to the economy, has been most severely impacted. Due to COVID-19, the year-to-year drop in tourist arrivals in 2020 was 90%, or 95% in Q2 through Q4. In response, the government adopted the Government Action Plan for 2020 through 2024, naming sustainable tourism based on nature, history, and cultural heritage as key to the country's economic recovery. In line with this and building on previous work, Page developed a green recovery proposal together with national counterparts to support Mongolia to develop a roadmap, national standards, and an investment plan for community-based ecotourism sector.
Okay, thank you for sharing the video, Lei. This was a short introductory video about how Mongolia is developing community-based sustainable ecotourism in rural Mongolia. So let me begin with my presentation now. So I will introduce how Mongolia private sector is collaborating together with local communities and also with academic institutions as a STEM cluster, mini STEM cluster. So I will begin with a brief introduction about Mongolia, and I will move on to the ecotourism project, which I'm involved in. So next slide, please. So we have many audiences from different countries around the world. So I would like to introduce where Mongolia is. We are located in Central, Eastern, Northeastern Asia, bordering with Russia and China, as you can see on the map, marked with a red background. So we have very small population, only 3.3 million people in the country, and we have yet we have 71 million livestock. So which is herd by roughly 200,000 herders. And in terms of tourism, which is the third largest contributor to Mongolia's economy, and before COVID, we have received over 500,000 or roughly 600,000 visitors and earned $465 million US dollars into our economy. So therefore, you can feel that tourism is an important part of our economy. So can you please move on to the next slide, please? Next slide, please. So Mongolia offers wild open space and multi-day adventure travel, including horseback riding, trekking, jeep tours, and cultural experiential holidays, and many colorful festivals. So if you visit Mongolia, you can experience that. Maybe we are the only country who houses who have the largest number of nomadic herders in the world, probably. Next, please. So this is the actual project we are undertaking. In the center, you can see a project called Boutique Gear, which is established by 4 tour operators called New Milestone, Eco Voyage, Travel Buddies, and Zenman Travel Mongolia, in collaboration with local herder family, Ganchalon's family, and National University of Mongolia. So we initially worked as a mini STEM tourism cluster in rural Mongolia. The very reason to start this cluster was we have such an authentic culture, which is one of the pull factors of international visitors. Yet the local herders lack with skills of accommodating and offering services to international and domestic visitors, and also they lack with how they can manage this tourism businesses. And on the other hand, as I mentioned earlier, we have 71 million livestock, which means we only have 3 million population. So you can imagine how many livestock we have. So this have resulted a significant environmental impact, including desertification, and also due to climate change, we have this frequent natural disaster called Zud in the winter, extreme cold, harsh winter, when herders tend to lose many of their livestock. So as you can see, climate change is already impacting Mongolian nomadic communities. Plus, because of the price of cashmere, Mongolian herders tend to increase quite large number of cashmere goats, so which impacts also desertification. Therefore, to have a green transition, we need to offer alternative livelihoods to rural nomadic herders. Then tourism could be potentially a very important livelihood for herders. Therefore, these tour operators who know their business know-how, collaborate with local herder communities, and also invite academic institutions to undertake training, research activities, and as a result, they have created this unique boutique care. Boutique care can offer experiential holiday, so visitor can stay with Mongolian nomadic communities while they have been enjoying the modern comfort. So next slide, please. So this is how visitors can experience Mongolian nomadic culture in rural Mongolia. They can stay in Mongolian traditional dwelling called bir, so which is the wooden structure covered with felt layers. So that's where nomadic Mongolians live and migrate with its gear. So visitor can stay with Mongolian herder families with modern comfort while experiencing exchanging their cultures. Next, please. Next slide, please. So this is how a boutique care looks like. So on the top right, you can see the overall setting of boutique care, and left bottom, you can see interior of a gear accommodation, and you can experience Mongolian nomadic culture in wilderness with modern comfort. Next, please. So because we have these unique cultural resources, on the other hand, we have this large number of livestock and few herders. In total, we have over 120,000 households, nomadic households, who have total number of livestock between 51 to 500. Why we chose this specific segment, and why we chosen those families with a specific number of livestock was visitors who wants to experience nomadic culture. Therefore, those who have certain number of livestock can handle that. On the other hand, those the households with very large number of livestock have no time to accommodate or offer the travel services to international domestic visitors, besides their busy herding chores. Therefore, we selected specific families who have got this specific number of livestock. So based on that, so what we suggest that, for example, if my family wants to host a visitor, it's one person must in charge of whole services like reservation, meals, accommodation, and activities, and so on. So that means we need one individual in full-time basis to offer tourism services to visitors besides the livestock and animal husbandry. Therefore, tourism can offer at least 120,000 to 244,000 jobs in rural areas. On the screen, you can see what kind of jobs they can do in terms of if they want to host a visitor, they need assistant herder, and they need to have reservation, and they have to offer meals, accommodation, all these services. These are the areas which creates extra labor, extra jobs for local herders. But to offer this service, herders need training. We need to build their capacities. Otherwise, they cannot handle travel and tourism services to visitors. Next, please.
Mara, if you can speed up.
Okay.
Thank you.
So therefore, we consider this is a green job, which is decent job, which contributes to preserving, restoring quality of environment in rural Mongolia. Next, please. So this is a tourism market in Mongolia. Especially we focused on domestic tourism, who preferred to visit and experience nomadic culture. So they prefer to travel short distance and short duration, and usually in the wooded areas with lakes and rivers. Next, please. So we did this market research and how Mongolian consumers expect from local community-based tourism. And one of the important criteria was being without human rights abuse of children and women in the household, which indicates very important criteria for domestic visitors. Also, another important criteria was having eco toilet and hand washing facilities. So which means consumers now have this demand of having green and eco-friendly experience during their holiday. Next, please. So therefore, we suggested how herders can be green and decent work employers. For example, transitioning to green economy cannot fulfill without small and medium enterprises. In tourism sector, half of the tourism forces work the companies less than 10 people, which means without small and medium enterprises, we cannot achieve the green transition. Therefore, we should not neglect this sector. Therefore, we need to build their capacities, and we have to train the herders, and also we offer collaboration with the private and public sector as a cluster. Therefore, could be potentially a very significant green transition experience in rural Mongolia. So now I'm concluding. As a result, next please. We have trained certain herders. We trained 19 herders, including 10 women, and small and medium enterprises, including 3 women. So we trained them on what is green job, what is decent work, how their business can be green and decent in community-based tourism in Mongolia. And we developed training manuals and capacity building modules for those who have involved in this STEM cluster in tourism in rural Mongolia. Thank you very much for your attention. So we can move on to next session.
Thank you, Amara. And really a visit to a girl and a herding community, a nomadic community is really an amazing experience that one can really have. And you can really feel the richness of the tradition and culture, and you can sense, the harmony of the people, the livestock, and also nature. And so this is something that we can promote. And I like very much, that it facilitates green jobs and decent work for our herding communities. Okay, now moving forward, can I now call on Mercy Ferrer to share their initiative related to, zero waste management? Over to you, Mercy.
All right, can we have our first slide, please? Solidarity greetings to everyone. Thank you, Asbe and Azad, for organizing and inviting me to speak in this forum on education for sustainable and green society. Tonight, my presentation is Zero Waste and SDG. The case of Apo Island, first Philippine Zero Waste Island Barangay. Next slide, please. Apo Island is a 74-hectare island, 7 kilometers off the coast of Negros Island, with a population of about 1,000 residents. It is also home to 650 species of fish, 450 species of corals, 47 species of birds, and many sea turtles. Because of its rich biodiversity, Apo Island was declared a protected landscape and seascape under the National Integrated Protected Area System Act of 1992. Port Diver magazine listed Apo Island as one of the top diving spots in the world. It is both a marine laboratory and a tourist attraction. On September 2021, it was declared the first zero waste island barangay in the Philippines. Next slide, please. First, what is zero waste? Zero waste has been defined as the conservation of all resources by means of responsible production, consumption, reuse, and recovery of products, packaging and materials without burning, and with no discharges to land, water, and air that threaten the environment or human health. The concepts of zero waste and a circular economy are closely linked. Zero waste is supporting at least 8 SDGs, namely SDG 13 climate action, SDG 11 sustainable cities and communities, and SDG 3 good health and well-being, to name a few. Next slide. In 2018, Apo Island faced a waste crisis like so many barangays in the country. Huge amounts of waste were generated daily by residents and tourists, made worse by waste that were washed ashore along the northern coast of the island from other cities and islands. Much of the waste was plastics. There was no segregation, collection, recycling, and composting, and no implementation of the Ecological Solid Waste Management Act, or the Republic Act 9003. Next slide, please. Apo Island's journey towards zero waste began in 2020 at the height of the COVID-19 pandemic, with partnerships with the local government of Apo Island and the municipality of Darwin, the Protected Management Bureau of the Department of Environment and Natural Resources, and with local, national, and international NGOs. The process followed the 10-step program designed by Mother Earth Foundation, which involved waste profiling to obtain a baseline data, multi-sectoral consultations, training, establishment of a barangay waste management committee, development of a local ordinance, establishment of materials recovery facilities, and an information, education, and communication campaign, and others. Next slide, please. The waste profiling provided baseline information on waste classification showing that at least 50% of the island's waste is compostable, 18% is recyclable, and about 29 is residual waste. The top 10 categories of waste were identified, and a breakdown of the types of waste products showed that most of the waste was from food packaging, home products, and personal care products. Next slide, please. A brand audit of the waste identified the most common branded products found in residual waste, as shown by the chart in this slide. This information was helpful in educating consumers about waste reduction and prevention. Shown here are plastic, both single-use and multi-layered packaging from Nestle, Unilever, and Coca-Cola, to name a few as top plastic polluters. Next slide. The journey towards zero waste entailed the creation of the Barangay Ecological Solid Waste Management Committee, tasked with overseeing the island's waste management work, implementing the zero waste approach, and monitoring compliance. The barangay also developed its local ordinance, which includes an annual budget for waste management, penalties, and enforcement mechanisms. A plastic regulation was also drafted to reduce plastic waste. Waste workers, mostly women, were recruited and trained. Another important part of the work was the information, education, and communication campaign. This involved door-to-door visits and engagement with the community to educate residents on zero waste, their responsibilities, and the importance of segregation. It also includes signages to raise awareness among residents and tourists. Next slide, please. Ecological solid waste management requires segregation at the household level or at the source. The segregation is maintained by the waste workers during collection and transport to the materials recovery facility, or what we call the MRF. The MRF is the heart of the system. A total of 4 MRFs were established in different parts of the island. At each MRF, recyclable bottles, tin cans, carton, glass, metal, and other recyclable materials are stored and later sold to junk shops in Negros Island for recycling. The biodegradable waste is shredded and composted at the MRFs using different composting methods. The compost is then given to schools and local gardens to use as fertilizers for their plants. Next slide. With recyclable and compostable waste diverted, only the much smaller amount of residual waste need to be transported by boat to the mainland for disposal. Other benefits of zero waste are higher commitment of the community to environmental protection, revenues from the sale of recyclables, compost for schools and gardens and other and offices, cleaner communities, and full compliance with Republic Act 9003. Going for zero waste protects the rich and unique biodiversity of Apo Island, preserving this marine sanctuary for future generations while maintaining the island as a popular diving, marine laboratory, and bird watching destination for both tourists and marine scientists from around the world. On September 18, 2021, national and international zero waste organizations recognized Apo Island as the country's first zero waste island. My last slide, next slide, are links to Apo Island's work videos. I encourage everyone, the participants here of this forum, to learn more about Apo Island's efforts to go zero waste and prevent plastic pollution. In the next round of presentation, I will be speaking about its replication, and it's already happening around the world, especially in Asia Pacific. Thank you very much for your attention.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mercy. And definitely, a visit to the Apo Island is something that we put on our bucket list. And maybe that can be, pieced together with ecotourism as well. What you have achieved, even if it's one barangay, still, you are able to disseminate information, you are able to encourage replication of that good experience is something that we can learn from your experience, definitely. Okay, so for our fourth speaker, Can we now have Sonal to walk us through her experience related to sustainable cities? Over to you, Sonal.
Thank you so much, Renee, and thank you to ASBE and Azad Foundation for inviting me to share our experiences. I'm deeply humbled by the presentations this evening. And so what I will be doing today is share our experience of engaging with decision makers and other partners towards sustainable cities with a focus on transport and gender equity. The loan from Azad actually has made my work very easy by laying out some of the key challenges related to women's workforce participation in India, the general lack of awareness of what constitutes sexual harassment in public spaces, whereas an overwhelming a majority of women across cities facing sexual harassment. And so what I will do is also demonstrate our approach in designing what we would traditionally understand as training programs, and how we use interactive methods to sensitize our stakeholders and then engage them through a process of self-discovery. And I'll share my presentation here. So briefly about us, I am the founder of the Urban Catalysts, and we are a consulting organization that aims to catalyze sustainable and gender equitable cities and transport. But how do we do that? We do that through data and research and conducting gendered analysis and using both quantitative and qualitative data in order to formulate policy and project recommendations. However, we have found that it is very useful that these recommendations, the process doesn't stop there, but we provide hand-holding and implementation support to decision makers. And we do that through a series of ways. One, creating knowledge tools. These might be guidelines that help internalize the policy or project recommendations, and then provide, like I said, hand-holding support towards implementation. And I'll explain some of that in my coming slides as well. So this is an example of a knowledge tool that we created with a partner, the Center for Catalyzing Change in Bihar, a state that has the lowest women's workforce participation, as well as the lowest urbanization rate in India. And our study on safe access and mobility in 3 cities in the state of Bihar, one of which was the city of Patna, which has a population of, the Patna urban agglomeration has a population of around 2 million or so, culminated in gender responsive street design guidelines that would sensitize road engineers on how to design streets considering women's safety and security. This is available on our website. I only wanted to illustrate one image, which talks about how certain amenities that are important to women's daily travel could be located based on their distance. An example of here would be healthcare centers or primary schools could be located within about 5 minutes walking distance in neighborhoods, whereas some of our bigger amenities like hospitals or like city level parks could be located at about 1.2 kilometers, or some you may say 30 minutes walk, or could also be used by public transport. So we have a lot more tangible, specific guidelines on how streets how pedestrian infrastructure needs to be designed, what needs to be considered from a visibility perspective, but that is also available on our website. A second key piece that we've done, and we used the learnings from the guideline in order to design a capacity development sensitization workshop and on safety and security in paratransit. In tier 2 cities in India, paratransit or informal transport constitutes a majority of public transport in those cities. We call them tuk-tuks, we may call them jeepneys, we may call them auto rickshaws, we may call them electric battery operated rickshaws. These are different ways in which how they are manifested in our cities. And this workshop primarily involved a multi-stakeholder group, which included young adolescent girls and women who were in the early 20s. It included decision makers from the transport offices. It also included auto rickshaw union leaders, and it included the traffic police as well. And what we did is instead of training curriculum, we actually took them through the process of internalizing the importance of paratransit operations in cities, but highlighting the need for safe and secure transport. This is something we call this a myth busting session, and we've been adopting this approach in all our capacity development sessions with multi-stakeholders. And here, after each myth was highlighted with the group, we worked with them to see whether they felt that this myth was busted, or could we engage in a conversation after. We then used videos to illustrate the full journey that a woman or a girl undertakes in a tier 2 city in Haryana, which is Rohtak, and to sensitize participants on the kind of harassment that is faced, which in India, we kind of understand sexual harassment only through gruesome incidents of violence, but not through daily violence as well. And this is a video, I will not be showing it, but this is to illustrate how we used videos to kind of talk about what really happened here, and how did the woman feel, and what could bystanders do in order to assist her as well. Another exercise that we kind of did over here was looking at different characters, and we call this role playing. I'm sure many of you are already aware of it. And we call this exercise either step up, or we may call it leave no one behind. And in each character was, each person was given a character that was, so for example, one was a trans woman, another person was a male caregiver with an infant, a third person was an adolescent girl, and we read out statements that would hold true, which if were true for the person, they would step up or otherwise stay back. What were those statements? I feel safe walking by myself in the day. I feel safe walking by myself in the night. And through a series of statements, we realized, and the participants themselves realized, how able-bodied men were actually leaving everyone behind. And this became the basis for us to start a roundtable and conversation on what each stakeholder could do in order to create a safer and secure transport system. Very quickly, this is our engagement with the Delhi Transport Corporation, and we've been working with them towards safe and secure public transport. This is an instance of working with some of the depot managers in the city of Delhi, a city that has 20 million residents, where we were really looking at what road safety meant from a gender and universal access. And here we began to demonstrate to them how certain infrastructure and services simply don't align. Because what we find often that the people, I mean, in fact, in our case, all the depot managers were using their own personal modes of transport, and so they were not really using the public transport buses as well. And so exercises like these also help them get sensitized into how they can work with different departments and different agencies as well. We've shared our website where you may get more resources on the guidelines that we have created, and you can also write to us at our address over here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sonal. And I think that is one way by which we can better manage our mega cities. More than 50% of the world's population now are living in mega cities and increasing at a very accelerated pace. And infrastructure and management of transportation, safety, and sustainability are really challenging issues that we have to. And so we want to learn from your experience. And yes, what you put on the chat box will be some references that we can look into. And I invite all the other speakers, if you can also put additional references to your projects, to your initiative, so that we can all learn from your experiences. Okay, so at this point, we'll have a 5-minute break probably. We don't want to go deep into the night, into the evening. And so, but before that, can we ask everyone to open their respective cameras so that we can have a photo shoot? And remember, if we see each other on the streets, on our ecotourism, on our mega cities, then we can say hi. Buds,
Yes, let's wait for everyone to turn on their videos. Yes, we are seeing more faces now. Okay, let's start at first page. We have 3 pages because we have more than 80 participants. So first page, keep on smiling, everyone. 1, 2, 3, smile. Next page. Okay, 1, 2, 3, smile, everyone. Next page. 1, 2, 3. There you go. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Buds. And now we'll have a break. But before we, have a break, maybe there's a poll so that we know where we are all coming from. Okay. And 5 minutes break after you have submitted your poll. Thank you. And please stay around. Stay around because the next session would be interesting because we want to hear what we can do as individuals and as organizations, what all of us can do together to address this urgent concern. Okay, thank you. Okay, everyone. So thank you for South Asia, Southeast Asia, East Asia for staying around, and Sub-Saharan Africa, and we have some from Europe as well. So thank you for staying around. And now I think we have to move on to the second round of our panelists. And this time around, we'd really like to shorten a bit. If you can keep really to time, and we'll stop you after 2 minutes. So we pose a question: how can you promote and scale up and possibly mainstream these initiatives as part of lifelong learning? So that's really the challenge. We have our initiatives. It may be small, but there is that possibility of scaling up and mainstreaming. And so we pose the question to you and to the rest of the participants later on our open forum. Okay, so can we go in the same direction? So Delon, if you can start off, your 3 minutes starts now. Delon, you're on mute.
Yeah, so as in our case, we strongly feel that we need to engage with the policymakers to promote it, because it's not a job of 1 or 2 CSOs to bring women in non-traditional skill education and to ensure sustainable environment through promoting green transportation. It's a job. Of course, CSOs has a role, but also the government and industries has a role. And we have already done an engagement with Delhi state government, where the electric buses have been promoted, and the women driver have been recruited there as bus drivers. So in our mind, in our thought, it can be scalable if the government takes initiatives, if government invest in skill building or skill education for women, particularly women from underprivileged communities, so that they can get trained with the skilled job for the skilled job market, and that job market needs to be a green economic effort. However, also I feel that when we want to talk about the scalability, but also under this sense, as in the beginning, Secretary General also spoke about it, that in this point of times and crucial issue for all of us. So whenever we talk about providing sustainable skill education and engaging them in market, of course, we have to keep in mind that market needs to be the ecologically balanced, and that initiative needs to be taken by the government. And CSOs can play a role. I'm not saying that CSOs, civil society, but in terms of scalability, the investment is needed, the mobilization is needed, and the infrastructure is needed. That can be done by the government and industries. Yeah.
Thank you, Delon. Thank you, Delon. And then Amara, something that your thoughts on replicating this ecotourism project. Over to you, Amara. Yes.
Yes. Can you repeat the question, please?
Yeah. How can you promote and upscale this initiative and possibly mainstream this one so that we can have better promotion of this initiative on ecotourism?
Thank you, Rene, for the question. Based on our experience, it seems it's okay to train local herders in one sense, but keeping it is as a sustainable business in the long run seems rather challenging, because once the herders started experiencing and earning extra livelihood income, then they may fully convert into tourism and forget the traditional culture and way of living. So at the moment, we find it rather challenging to balance this authentic yet experiential tourism culture. But to make it mainstream, important thing is to work with private sector is important, because private sector is one actor on this tourism cluster business. They have know-how, therefore mutual trust and mutual partnership is important, and contribute with what you can and what you have, based on your experience, based on your capabilities and capacities. And therefore to replicate such experiences, important thing is we have to encourage local communities to understand the importance of keeping authentic culture in tourism. Otherwise, it become a museum exhibition in the long run. So they must understand this to keep it in the long run as a sustainable, community-based ecotourism experience.
Thank you, Amara, and definitely training, awareness building, and also cooperation, civil society among each other, and also with government is something that we can really push and prompt in order to promote and replicate these experiences. Now, Mercy, your thoughts on this, please?
All right. I need 2 slides that I have. All right. For the information of everyone, we are already scaling up, promoting, and the main target really is to mainstream zero waste through the following. There is a Zero Waste Academy that we have organized for the past years, and it's an open online learning platform designed for the Asia Pacific members of the organization and for the other peoples. And this includes local government units, people from the non-government, and individuals that are interested. So this is really please look at the link, and I really would like ASBE to be part of this, perhaps a future collaboration and partnership. The next is that aside from Apo Island, there are also other islands that are being worked as zero waste. So there is a Zero Waste Islands program under the Mother Earth Foundation, so you can check that one. The next slide, please. Next slide, please. And last but not the least, I would like to also tell everyone that there is an international plastic-free campus and plastic education that is ongoing internationally. And perhaps we can link up with all of these things, because these are both formal and informal education that we are doing. So in behalf of our network, the Global Break Free from Plastic and the Global Alliance for Incinerator Alternatives, this is really an opportunity for us to partner. And the last point that I want to say is that we want to invite ASBE, Azad, and others to also support and be part of the negotiation that is ongoing to have a globally binding plastic treaty. The next INC, intergovernmental negotiation, will happen in Nairobi, Kenya this November. And the ASBE network is very much welcome to learn and to be part of this, and a partnership and collaboration is in order. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you, Mercy, and certainly we will be considering such partnership, including our coalition in the Philippines. INAT Philippines would definitely be interested in partnering with this kind of initiative. Okay, now to Solon.
Yes, thank you,
Yeah,
Renee.
please.
I think, like you mentioned, I'll emphasize the point on lifelong learning, and our experience with decision makers has shown that a lot of the learning happens on the job. And so, for example, working towards implementing programs on safe and secure transport itself, learning through those difficulties is one form of learning over and above structured engagements as well. In India, we do have subnational training institutes that organize regular training programs for government officials at different grades. And I think that organizations like Azad, ourselves, and others really need to work together in seeing how courses on gender inclusive and responsive cities becomes a part of this regular official training curriculum as well. So I think this is one way that I see our work getting mainstreamed and scaled up as well.
Thank you very much, Sonal, and our four really distinguished panelists. And we all learn from your projects and from your initiatives. So at this point, we would like to invite our participants to share their thoughts, not really to pose questions, but also to share their experiences, what can be done individually and as organizations in order to promote and also address the challenging problem that we face. What can we do as communities and as societies to address these challenges? And for this open forum, may I invite Susmita. Susmita is our colleague in ASBE and capacity advisor for the different coalitions in Central Asia and also in Afghanistan. So Susmita, please join us. Okay.
Thank you very much. Hi. Yeah, thank you very much, Renee. But I think I'm going to switch off my video because my internet is not good at all. So, yeah. So what firstly, thanks very much to all the speakers. It has been really great to hear about the wonderful work that you were doing. I would like to bring in the perspective of gender in this whole aspect because in this whole process, we need to understand the unequal gender relations in accessing the resources for these kind of work that is being done. Especially in case of Azad, it's always focused towards the women and girls who are the survivors or who are in distress situation. But for other areas also, it is very important that we bring in the gender aspect in it. And I was just looking into, and there are wonderful examples how pivot can be made green. And there are examples from African countries and also Indian organizations. I'm very sorry for this. Women deliver at this moment, so it's a lot of noise around. I'm extremely sorry for this. And how digital education can be utilized to promote market opportunities, the products and communications within the potential buyers within their own communities. So that's climate change is an extremely important issue. And in that, we know that everybody is going to be impacted by it. But in that, women and girls, I think, are the most who are going to be impacted. So to promote that women and girls are also equally part of the climate debate. That is another important area that we need to look into. Also, my final will be constantly promote for unrestricted funding for feminist movement, for gender movement, so that which encompasses not only the climate issue, but also all the other areas, health, gender, and other areas. So that we need to constantly work on at this moment, because more and more donors are becoming more projectized. So this is the time that we keep on pushing for more unrestricted funding. So that's my 2 points, Renee, and thank you very much.
Yeah, and can we invite the participants to share their feedback, to share, what can be done? So if I may call on...
Renee, I see that Serafin has raised his hand from a long time.
Okay. May I call on Serafin Molina? Yeah, and I believe you are from the Philippines. Thank you. Over to you. Please unmute.
You are mute. You are mute, Seraphine.
Hello. Hello, am I sound audible already?
Yes, yes. Please go ahead.
Ayan. Yes. Oh, thank you. Thank you for that. So first, I would like to say, I would like to introduce myself. I'm Serafin A. Molina, and I'm the national president of Teachers Inc. Philippines from the Southeast Asia. Well, I've been hearing a lot about our topic in climate change, and I'm so happy and I'm glad that there is a platform where we can talk about this because the issue about climate change is a long and uphill battle up to this time with some of the environmental advocates. No, in fact, in one of the seminars I've attended, it's no longer climate change, but everybody now is in climate crisis. So it's very important that we should really address some issues on climate change. No, with Sir, the one who is hosting, no, who said some question on how we are going to address this issue. No, I think one of the very important aspect of our advocacy is to find champions who will serve as the bastion, who will take care of all our issues on environment. Because even if how much we talk about all these issues on our level, so on the participation of the different non-government organization, but if we do not have somebody from up there who will really take a very serious look on the issue of climate change, then I think it will not have an impact at all. So I think it's very important na in every countries, no, in every countries we should find a person or somebody who is already in the legislative to really hear these issues, because if we have find one, then it will be one of their agenda. Because up to this time, no, we do not have really I do not know if this is true to other countries, but in the Philippines, there have been a lot of programs that already addresses issues about environment. Okay, so I've heard about the zero waste, I've heard about garbology, I've heard about lessening the footprint, carbon footprint use, etc., etc. So it's not something that is new to talk about, but even if we have so much idea, we have so much thing to share about the environment, if this is not translated, this is not being heard to anybody up there, then I think it will be futile. And then finding, of course, no, we have to engage also the Department of Education. I do not know if how is this called to other countries, but we have to mainstream this issue about climate crisis in the curricula, because sometimes the issue about environment is only just as good as when different NGO is just talking about it, but it's not really something that is learned by everyone. So I think we really have to have a serious note on how we are going to put the issue on environment and climate crisis up to the grade level who can really understand about the nature and about the environment. Because I think if this is already put into heart by anyone that we are now in a serious case about the global climate change, the drastic changes in the environment, I think everybody will have a share on how they will really put something or put an action to our issue about climate change. And then I think also, no, aside from finding a person who will take in the probably, no, I think there should also be an issue about consistency. I think everyone has a share. Every country has a way to address the issue, but I have not seen how consistent they are in their program. I think this is also one thing that we have to get serious. if we are really serious talking about the climate change or climate crisis that's happening right now, and with all the programs that was given, how can that be consistent so that it will really be something that everybody's concerned? So, and of course, no, well, the government must be serious with it, and the only way for us to let the government hear our thoughts about climate change is that, well, of course, we NGOs are already doing something for this. We are making a lot of talks about forum to say about the climate change. But what is important is that we should have a resounding sound, no, so that this issue will be taken seriously by this government official. That's all.
Thank you, Seraphine.
I hope I was not taken.
Yeah. Thank you very much for your intervention. Now, may I call on from Uso Inteligente from Mexico, Virgilio Rivera, please share your thoughts.
Thank you very much, Rene. Xie ni hao wadu pangyo wadu chongwen laoshi. My name is Virgilio. It's a pleasure to be here. I appreciate the invitation. I love to travel. I have the chance to travel in Asia and learn about education in different cultures. And I believe that it's very interesting, the points about ecotourism, about our actions, and about what we can do in our sectors and our level. Traveling is also a learning experience about culture, opening mind and learning from other people. And I believe that we can include the term of educational tourism also in a way that if we're going to travel and we're going to move from one part to another one, we must open our opportunities to learn first. That it's what I can do to learn first, and then to apply proper activities and actions towards my uses and consumptions of resources, being aware about my impact environmentally, socially, and also economically in my locally, learning globally to implement locally and act locally to be global and have a good impact environmentally and socially also, not measuring just economical profits. It's more important to follow up the productivity of nature as all people here has done. I represent a civil association in Mexico, which is called Uso Inteligente, means smart use, sweet young in Chinese. And well, thank you very much for the time. It's a pleasure for me to be with you.
Thank you, Virgilio, and hope we'll have further exchanges in the future. Thank you. Lakshmi, I see your hand from Nepal. Lakshmi, you are in mute. Lakshmi, can you speak? So yeah, Lakshmi may be having some internet connection issues. So Farouk, I see. Did you raise your hand? And we have Marie-Claude. Yes, Farouk after Marie-Claude. Yes, over to you, Marie, if you can unmute yourself.
Yeah, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you very much for the invitation. And also, so my NGO, I represent Business and Professional Women International. So we advocate for leadership of women in all professional areas, including the climate and technical jobs, green jobs, etc. We are also a member of Women for Water Partnership. And I think that what is lacking, as Samita said, that women and girls need to be in the climate debate, but not only in the climate debate, but also must be part of the decision making. This is very important. And if you look at the assembly of the participants and the decision makers in climate, most of them are men. So we have to have men allies and also female decision makers. Thank you.
Thank you, Marie-Claude. And if Lakshmi can now speak? Not yet. Okay.
Thank you.
Farouk, if you can now unmute yourself and raise some points.
I think it was very interesting and very brilliant presentations made. Actually, in Bangladesh, we are sufferer of the climate change, natural calamities, and we have some experience, particularly by the non-government organizations in waste management. Our government is doing a lot about addressing the natural calamities, but it's not limited to national boundaries. So international cooperation, to the extent we should get, we are not receiving from that point of view. But one point is very interesting and very much striking. That is, our government and non-government organizations are doing a lot about the topics you have just brought to this evening in Bangladesh. My point is this, particularly BRAC, Campaign for Popular Education campaign under the able leadership of Rashida Chaudhary. But what we lack is we need more coordinated activities here. In our context, I think ASBE can help us in just making this coordination more fruitful. I will be making few observations about this program today. First of all, you brought some ideas, old ideas in new form, and new orientations you have given. And you have made me remind again that education is no more limited to textbooks and national boundaries. Diversity and creativity related to skill development and new awareness in and around, within and without, is very vital. Most important, learning is to fight despair and frustration, ensure progress and development in the face of any form of adversity. Achievement of brilliant successes is possible through diversifying the issues in a concerted way. I must thank ASBE for this initiative. Normally it was expected that we should speak for primary education, lifelong learning, but what it actually implies, what ought to be done, have been presented by the brilliant presentations you have brought today. I am an old man. I must say, regarding coordinated efforts, teachers, parents, policy makers, both government and non-government initiatives need more coordination need more acceleration of the objects. You know, SDG, education, international programs are no more limited to national context. These are international aspects too. At the same time, it covers each and every national areas. So my point is this: I must appreciate today's program launched by Asbe, and I am very happy to express what I feel. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Farouk, and Lakshmi. If your audio is already okay, please come in.
Yeah, am I audible now, Rene?
Yes, thank you.
Yes, thank you so much, Rene and Aspetim. Sorry for the disturbance. I'm Lakshmi Nepal. I work as an admin and finance officer in National Campaign for Education Nepal, NC Nepal. I just want to share about the Nepal context. Like Nepal has also a top tourist destination, but we know that air and road travel are some of the biggest contributors to CO2 emission, and that is where tourism should serve multiple positive purpose, like the sharing of Mr. Amara, his importance of education, awareness building, promoting green jobs, and promoting local culture. And also I want to add is that no any of the country or the community has been developed without steady investment in the education sector, like promoting public education of the country. So investment in education helps in the building the inclusive and green societies that we discussed in the previous presentation and sharing. And it is very much essential for preparing young people and youth of the communities and in the countries for green jobs, to stop the labor force, workforce and movement of the youth to the abroad for further and higher studies. Since in context of Nepal, the movement and migration of youth for higher studies and also for the work nowadays is increasing rapidly, and so that's investment in education also helps in building the green societies that we discussed previously. This much. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lakshmi. And we note that Nepal, of course, is one of the favorite tourism destination. And so probably you can share with Amara what the learnings are about ecotourism. Okay, Flora, I see your hand. Flora, if you can come in.
Hello, yes.
Please.
Hello, good morning, good evening to everyone. I would like to take note only with regards to our topics, education for sustainable and green societies. In order to achieve sustainable action on environmental concerns, we must take into account the broader issues of our society that relate to our economic and social development, poverty alleviation, consumption of resources, employment, and quality of life. So what I would like to stress here is to link it to the broader issues affecting our society. Secondly, I would like to ask also if we are familiar with ILO Convention 139 on the prevention and control of occupational hazards caused by carcinogen, in particular with regards to the exposure to asbestos. Probably if our government has not yet ratified this ILO Convention 139, maybe we should take it as one of our agenda because it is hazardous to people's lives. And then secondly, I would like also, from the point of view of labor, I would like to put forward also ILO Convention 155 and 161, as well as with the accompanying recommendations in ILO Convention 164 and 171 on occupational health and safety. So these are things that we should take into account in addressing the dangers, no, that affect the people's lives in terms of degradation, in terms of environmental concern, and other issues. And this is where I would like to locate the role of teachers, no, in developing in their curricula the aspects of environmental education. And government should be take its obligation, no, to include and be purposive in addressing the issue of environmental education in their respective education curriculum. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Flora. And now we have comments from the chat box. Probably we can read and share with you some of them. Okay. I'll call on Lei to read to us some of these feedback from the chat box. Lei, over to you.
Yes, okay, great. Thank you, everybody, and thank you to our excellent panel of speakers. I just wanted to raise one comment that was particularly interesting, and it also relates to what Ms. Flora and Ms. Helen said earlier, that this is from Bhagwani Rathore, and they said that they think climate change, the issue of climate change cannot be effectively dealt with separately, but it requires an inclusive approach. So as a woman from a scheduled caste from Pakistan, she has experienced that these marginalized communities suffer more in all aspects due to the environmental issues that we've been having. And they think that these issues should be dealt with using an inclusive approach. And because climate change is such a massive issue, it's an issue so vast and threatening that it almost seems like such an abstract concept that cannot be solved. And I think these initiatives that we've talked about and we've discussed over the past 2 hours, these are already at work in many places in Mongolia and the Philippines, in India, and in many more across the Asia Pacific and globally. We do need to identify what these solutions are and how these can be scaled up and how we can work together across sectors and across regions, because it is a collective issue that we need to face. And yeah, it's a catastrophic one, and it's an issue of human rights and gender justice and climate justice and development justice and all of that. So
okay, thank you for that feedback and for Dave. And so I think we come to the end of this side event. The highlights of this I won't be repeating again, but just to say that, global solidarity, collective action, scaling up solutions that we already know and have practiced around, prompting government, calling on our governments to hold them to account to the promises that they have made and to have drastic policy changes. And we know that these problems on climate change and also on the environment are all interconnected, and we want social justice. We want social change. And, with our cooperation, with working together, we can achieve a better world, a better society for everyone. So over to you, Dolon, for the synthesis, short synthesis and closing.
Yeah, actually, you have done the summing up, and also my colleague from ASBE previously, she has also done the summing up. Just quickly, in the session, in this session, I think we have come up with a couple of issues for engagement with the policymakers, governments, and the global policymakers. One is this environmental issues, that are human rights issues, and it is a cross-cutting issues. And I remember that 30 years back, we started saying that gender is a cross-cutting issue. It needs to be mainstreamed. And now quite mainstreamed, but still there are scope to work, but it's quite mainstream. So now we should raise this voice that there's environmental issues, climate change issues it needs to be mainstream. It's a cross-cutting issue. We need this subject in our curriculums, in our effort of any development project, because this is something is a need of the hour. Also, I think in the summing up, I would just like to add that in our own perspective, our own respective countries, we need to work with the governments and the industries to ensure that it is maintained, because we need to make them accountable, as we know that the industries have huge role to play to maintain the ecological balance. And as gender and climate change issues are, as Shushmita, my colleague, said from ASPE, that it has been a huge, it is complementary to each other, because women are the worst sufferer of the climate change. And it should be, it is and sustainable, a transformative education is actually tool. We can use it as a tool to promote that promote the issues related to ecological balance, environmental sustainability, and climate change. With this note, I'd like to thank all my colleagues here, all participants. I'll start with the Secretary General of ASPE, Ms. Helen Dabu. She has provided that she has set the tone with huge perspective, I mean, important perspective, and she has set the stage for all of us. My dear colleague from ASPE, Rene, has been moderated it so well, and it helped all of us as speakers and participants to understand the objective of the sessions and what we are talking about. So he has made the link from one presentation to another presentation so quickly. I would like to thank my co-speakers here. I mean, I know that Amara has left. He has to travel back early, but Amara, please convey my thanks to Amara, whoever it is here. Maria, my colleague and friend, Sonal, special thanks to you all for your input and perspectives. And of course, I mean, most importantly, I would like to thank the people who work from behind. That is Lay, that is Shikha and Bats, and many more of team members of ASPE and Azad. Thank you so much. Let us raise our voices for climate stability, sustainable environment, and let us make this issue as a cross-cutting issue, and let us raise this demand to make it mainstream in every sphere of our lives. Thank you.
Have a pleasant day and a pleasant evening. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, everyone. Salamat, Mercy. See you again. Let's connect further.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Marie-Claude. Thank you.
Mercy.
Bye, Uso.
Thank you.
Namaste. Bye. Madam Flora, long time no see.
Oo nga. Attorney, miss you.
Miss you. Miss you more. Kita tayo one of these days.
Oo, okay.
Maraming salamat, ha?
Okay, thank you.